In 2014, we witnessed the end of one of the most impactful shonen series, Naruto. We were also witnessing the reemergence of the legendary series that just had a huge movie the prior year, as well as a new one coming the following year with Dragon Ball. Now, pop quiz. You're a company with two of the most popular series in your disposal, and people's interest in these series is at an all-time high at the moment. Do you, A, allow the creators of these series to decide what to do with them? B, start an anime follow-up series despite not having any content to go off of? C, press the creators of the series into making a follow-up continuation? Or D, let the series retire into the Hall of Fame of Shonen? If you pick B or C, you're half right because it's both, but if you didn't pick both, you're wrong. Go back to school now. So because one of the answers is C, that leads into the development of the new manga series for each, Boruto and Dragon Ball Super. Now, this video isn't really about the issues within both of the series in terms of plot, although I may divulge into them for a real theme of this video occasionally, which is the manga art. Now, for a little bit of context for both series, Kishimoto, the author and creator of Naruto, was already planning the venture of his new series, Samurai 8, which means he couldn't exactly have all his attention on Boruto, leading to not only the art being done by someone completely different, that person being Ikimoto, but the overall story was not going to be following Kishimoto's vision as well, as it was going to be written by a new author, Kodachi, with Kishimoto taking a backseat as series supervisor, as they call it. On Dragon Ball side of things, Toriyama hasn't written Dragon Ball in a long time, excluding the most recent movies at the time. He wrote Dragon Ball Minus, but I choose to ignore its existence. So he hasn't written or drawn Dragon Ball outside maybe designing a few characters for games and whatnot. After the spike in popularity from the recent entries of the franchise, it appears that the powers that be put a little bug in his ear, and he will return to write the continuation of Dragon Ball Super. However, this time, it was Dragon Ball without the artist flair of its initial creator. It will be drawn by Toyotaro, an artist that Toriyama personally picked as his successor to draw the iconic franchise in a passing of the torch sort of manner. Although personally, I think this nigga Toriyama just didn't feel like drawing anymore, but that's just... So now that we have our crew together for each series, it's time to officially get to work, and the reception was bittersweet. See, although the hype for both series was definitely still there upon the continuation of its releases, it appeared that something was off. The art for both of these series lacked the charm and charisma of their predecessors, and while both artists for their series have certainly evolved for the better at the time of recording this, it's still something very visibly wrong and frustrating when reading each manga. So with Toyotaro's art for Dragon Ball, you can definitely see why Toriyama handpicked him. Little fun fact about Toyotaro is that he used to draw the fan manga Dragon Ball AF, so he's had a lot of time to really understand the proportions and style of these characters that imitates Toriyama's pretty closely. But that's the issue with Toyotaro. His art is an imitation of what came before. At a glance, it very much looks like Dragon Ball, but upon reading the manga, it doesn't feel like Dragon Ball. See, when reading Dragon Ball under Toriyama, there's a type of energy and charm that goes with his work, unlike Toyotaro's. And I noticed it especially when I started reading Toyo's action scenes. His action is very bland and ends up becoming boring, which was the main issue for me when reading both of these series. They both kind of use the same fight choreography, overuse of speed lines, static movements, and the same facial expressions for every impact, as opposed to Tori's work, where there's a real weight and dynamic expression with the paneling, compared to Toyo's work, where it leaves a lot to be desired. And upon looking into Toyo's designs, there's very round looking compared to Toriyama's. Granted, art is subjective, and this could very well be just the way Toyo draws, but it's also the thing that is alarming to the eyes if you analyze the art within manga. Now, with Boruto's art, something I can really appreciate it, opposed to Toyotaro's, is Ikimoto is not imitating Kishimoto whatsoever at the beginning. Ikimoto's art is definitely a little rough to look at when reading the first couple of arcs, though, I have to admit. Again, art is subjective, so to each their own. I personally have a friend who really enjoys Ikimoto's art, but it's almost no denying that as opposed to Kishimoto's more simplified designs, that Ikimoto had a tendency to make his designs a little more based in reality. When you look at things like the eyes and how the hair looks, over time, I don't know if Kishimoto gave him a few pointers, but his art definitely softened up a bit in terms of designs. It was very jarring to go from Naruto, how he was looking at the end of his series, to how he looked in Boruto. Although now, while not completely duplicating Kishimoto's work, it does now feel like it's in the same universe as opposed to how it looked before. Now, while the overall art design may have improved, The fight scenes certainly have not. I say fight scenes specifically because some of the action scenes, like when Sasuke cuts off Kawaki's arm or when Boruto launches this Rasengan, they look incredible because they're clear and have a sense of scale, as opposed to the fight scenes where the use of the same angles and choreography, just like with Dragon Ball Super, they all become very boring in comparing to its previous series. I think my big thing is the art for Dragon Ball Z and Naruto are just so much more creative and interesting to read than almost anything Boruto or Super has to offer. And I want to make it clear that for the most part, they are definitely improving in some aspects. With Goku and Vegeta hitting their Ultra forms is undeniably one of Toyo's hardest panels. Igimoto seems to be making a lot of memorable panels as well in these most recent chapters. Boruto standing on the opposite side of Kawaki, Boruto standing on Code are undeniably hard as shit and proves that Ikimoto at least is showing off his understanding of flair and style. Now, we haven't seen much of fighting besides a few scuffles and two blue vortex at the time of me recording this, but I have a feeling that the next major fight may show some improvements from Ikimoto for the better. Another issue I have with these two series, not only are they follow-ups and have the creators by their side for advice, but they have an entire month to create these chapters. I feel like that leaves a little room to develop a better sense of identity in these series. The art is just very bland when compared to what Kishi and Toriyama's weekly mangas were capable of showcasing. And don't even get me started on their peers right now. Horikoshi and Gege are, in my opinion, at the forefront of great action and fight scenes in Weekly Shonen right now. And I believe that Boruto and Super can take a few pointers. All in all, I feel like Toyotaro is playing it too safe. We've seen him be capable of drawing truly great scenes, but he may need to try and push the envelope and take Dragon Ball's art into a new experimental direction. With Ikimoto, he's definitely showing signs of improvement. His over the signs and obsession with belts is still there, but it looks like he's very much coming into his own. Maybe Kishi gave him a few pointers behind scenes, but his fights most certainly need to improve in order to keep a lasting effect. There is almost no memorable fight scene in all of Boruto. Because as it stands, the definitive way to consume these two series resides in its anime adaptations, and well, that's a topic for another video.
Yeah.